Hi, today I'm going to teach you more about the topic of non-fungible tokens, or as most people probably know them as NFTs. And I want to teach you about NFTs because I feel like, not just for you, but also for me, there's a lot to learn about them. A lot of people roughly know what they are. They've maybe heard about it, especially a few years ago when NFTs were very popular, but I feel like no one really knows what their utility is. So today I'm going to explain to you what NFTs are, how they came to be, and what of the practical applications to them are, because they are more than just funny pictures. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is an NFT? So NFTs are digital assets. Think about videos, work of art, other digital content that have been tokenized through a blockchain. And the tokens themselves can be seen as unique identification codes that are stored on a digital ledger, and then the assets that are connected to the tokens are stored elsewhere. And NFTs can be traded from one person to another, or they can be exchanged for money, for crypto, or for another NFT. And the price is completely dependent on what value other people assign to it. Um, and essentially, anyone can make an NFT. You can make a picture of a beautiful sunset, attach the metadata to it. That's essentially the code that makes the NFT unique, and then you tokenize it on the blockchain, and whoever has the private keys to that token now owns the rights that you have attached to it. And NFTs are quite often confused with crypto because they're both secured on blockchain networks, and a lot of people think blockchain equals crypto, but that's not always the case. There's definitely a distinction between them. They're different from each other, and the main difference is that cryptocurrencies are fungible, which means that there's no real difference between one Bitcoin and another Bitcoin, but no two NFTs are identical, and that's why they're called non-fungible tokens. They are unique. And anyone who lived through the NFT hype in 2021 will have noticed that NFTs were especially popular among the younger generation. About half of millennial millionaires at the time owned at least 25% of their net worth in crypto. So why was that? And one of the reasons is the fact that millennials and Gen Z were essentially the first generation to always have access to the internet. And with that, a vast amount of information that the generations before them just simply didn't have. And they were also, and I experienced this firsthand, they were the first generation where the majority was being exposed to crypto influencers. And the older generations just didn't really know what was going on in those markets. And this gave younger people a much better understanding of what NFTs were, and with that, a competitive advantage as well. Another reason is that NFTs were already being used in video games, for example, to represent new weapons, skins, and other attributes that could be traded from player to player on a blockchain based marketplace. And most of those players were millennials and were Gen Z, so they were already a lot more familiar with living digital lives and dealing with digital assets. So yeah, and the older generations are generally more skeptical about that, and they don't adopt new technology as fast as the younger generations. While a younger generation might see new technology as, oh, that's cool, or that's a new way to make money, or that's a new way to support an upcoming artist. The older generations generally like to ridicule this for a while, and this has been the case all throughout history. And another reason is risk appetite. Teenagers, people in their 20s, they're generally willing and able to risk a lot more than the older generations. And yeah, cryptos and NFTs were the perfect assets for them. They were very high in terms of risk, but they could potentially generate enormous returns. And even though the NFT hype has waned quite a lot compared to 2021, I do feel like NFTs can still have a place in the future. For example, they can be used to streamline investing. Consulting firm EY, for example, developed an NFT solution for one of its wine collectors where the wine was being stored in secure environment, right temperature, humidity, etc. And then um, the NFT was used to actually record and protect the ownership of that particular bottle of wine. Real estate can be tokenized as well. You can divide a property into multiple sections based on unique characteristics to make it non-fungible. You can divide a property based on location, view, size, amenities, price, um, making it unique and therefore representable by an NFT. And this could really simplify the rather bureaucratic affair that real estate investing and real estate trading is right now. NFTs could also be used to represent ownership in the business. Stock ownership is already being tracked on a digital stock ledger that records the name of the shareholder, date of issue, um, certificate number, the number of shares they own, so tokenizing this would definitely be possible. And because NFTs trade on a blockchain and not a stock ledger, smart contracts could also be used to automate the transfer of ownership, which would again streamline everything enormously. And then finally, identity and data protection and security can be vastly improved by NFTs because personal information that's stored on a blockchain can simply not be accessed unless you have the private keys. So it would be a lot more secure than a lot of solutions we have now. So NFTs can be more than just a hype or funny pictures. They are unique digital tokens that prove and register all kinds of ownerships of all kinds of assets. But I think it's probably going to take quite a while before we're going to see a major Fortune 500 company or a real estate company actually tokenize a stock or a real estate project. But I still think it doesn't really matter whether you're a critic, a skeptic, or fan. NFTs are important in the way how we think about digital value and ownership, and it's interesting to think about how something could be different in the future. So that's always nice to think about. So on that note, I would like to end. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.